Hello, I'm Mark Bonham, a partner at Mayer Brown, and I work in the Emerging Company Venture Capital, or ECVC, practice. We are in the Salt Lake City office. We also work with other offices, including those in Palo Alto and Northern California generally. And we work with a lot of startup companies, especially in the tech world, but some of them are consumer goods and other kinds of things. So that's where I've spent many, many years working with brand new startup companies. And this little talk is going to be about one particular item that comes up under the tax code, but can be really important for someone starting a new company. And it's the matter of 83B elections. You may have heard that term and not know what it is. I'm hoping in 10 minutes or maybe less in this little talk, you're going to understand what the key points are about that. So that's the purpose of this. The reference is to the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, in other words, the tax code. And there's a section which is part of it called Section 83. That's all about income and figuring out what your income is so that the government can assess taxes against that income. And 83B is the section which arises that is affected by the following common situation. The common situation is I'm buying stock in a startup corporation. You can also have a similar thing with LLCs, but I'm buying this and so is my co-founder or my co-founders. Let's say there are three of you and you're starting a company and you say, wow, if we all just buy our stock, that would be really simple. But what if one of us gets distracted by something, decides to, run for governor and leaves the company after only a month or two? Is it fair that they get to keep all of their stock? Or should we have some way of reeling it back in from people who don't stick around? And so you often hear about vesting, which means over a period of time, commonly 3 or 4 years, you have the company has the right to buy back your stock at the same price you paid, or sometimes even less, if you leave. And then the company's right goes away over time, typically monthly, so that at the end of those 3 or 4 years, you are now vested or holding that stock, and you can do what you want with it. But it protects your co-founders in case one of you decides to leave or stops working, or you have to vote them off the island, whatever, against the idea that someone takes a big chunk of the company but doesn't really contribute to it. So that's the idea. And under Section 83, if we didn't do anything else, the IRS would look at that monthly vesting requirement and say, it seems to us that you bought that stock, but it wasn't really yours. It had a risk of forfeiture. And as that risk goes away a little bit every month, we think now the stock is really yours. And we'd like to measure the value of it at the time the risk goes away, subtract what you paid and say, all of the difference is a gain, and we want to tax you on it. So for example, if you paid $1 for your stock, but 2 years into it, another little piece of it vests, and now you own that. If the IRS looked at that, they'd say, oh, we think that stock was probably worth $101 that month, and you only paid $1, so you have $100 of gain times the number of shares that vested, and we see that as income, so we want to tax you on that, which is a trap for you, because you're not getting any cash. It's not easy to pay the government, and yet they're going to assess taxes. And when April 15th comes around, you're going to be in trouble. To avoid that problem, you are allowed to use an 83B election, which is a one-page simple form that you fill out, but you have to do it within 30 days of buying the stock. And on that form, you essentially are saying to the government, look, the stock was worth $1. I paid $1. So $1 minus what I paid is $0. Why don't I just pay you all of the taxes owed on that zero income right now, and then you just leave me alone as it vests every month? and you can tax me again when I finally sell it. And that arrangement is what's meant by filing an 83B election. So it's not a difficult form to fill out. It's only 1 page long. You do have to file with the IRS, and your lawyers or paralegals can help you to make sure that you get that filing done. You have 30 days, and if you miss the 30 days to file it, there's no way to go back and fix it. You can maybe make it less bad, but you can't fix the missed filing. So filing that 83B election becomes really important. Now, I do want to point out that this is not the same thing that happens if you're granted a stock option that becomes exercisable over time. It could be on that same schedule a little bit every month for 3 or 4 years, but with the option, the IRS doesn't see it as a risk of forfeiture. It's not something you had, but you might have to sell back. It's something you didn't have and it arrived. And so for a stock option, there's no need for an 83B election. It's when you buy something that's subject to a repurchase right. I think that is pretty much my little talk about what is Section 83, what's an 83B election, why would you need it? And I hope this has been helpful. Obviously, you can get in touch with us if you need additional help. There are other things on the Springboard site, springboard@mayorbrown.com. That have other useful tips for founders, and we love to see little companies grow, and we don't ever want to see the cap on them. They can grow as big as they want. You won't outgrow Mayor Brown. Thanks for listening.